Hey everyone, welcome to the 5 Beer Plan. I'm Brian, and this is the ongoing saga of an everyman's ale trail. In this episode, it's time to go back to school, continue the homebrew adventure, chat about podcasts and beer with a couple of old drinking buddies, and review March of Progress from Speciation Artisan Ales. In last month's episode, I languished about the end of the hop deep dives. It was a great time of research for me, and I hope the same for you. I learned a lot about the different hop varieties, aroma, flavor, acid content, what styles they work in, what styles they don't work in as well. Of course, if I run across a new single hop beer using a variety I've not yet covered, I will dig into it because there are always new varieties being bred. So what is next, you might ask? Well, before I go there, even though school's out, it is time for a little math remediation. In the last season and a half, I have reviewed 16 different hop varieties. In my beer reviews, I always tried to find beers with that single or dominant hop to go along with the research I conducted, which was challenging but very rewarding. But it is very unusual in my experience that only one hop is used in a beer. And thus, back to Algebra 1 we go. So here's a brain teaser. If I only consider these 16 varieties, without repeating any, how many combinations of 2 hop varieties may be used to brew a beer? I'll give you a moment to go back to the combination formula and make a quick calculation. Okay, class, pencils down. Based on my calculation, there are 120 different combinations that can be considered. Okay, I can already see my best students of beer raising their hands and wanting to say, "Everyman, not all hop varieties work well together in a beer." And to that I would say, bravo. You get a gold star. It would be much better for me to break the hops down into combinations according to their profiles. But what fun is there in that? What if I calculate the number of non-repeating combinations with 3 hop varieties in a beer? Are you ready? That number increases to 560 different combinations. And not to make your brain hurt any more than it already does, consider this. There are over 250 cataloged hop varieties from around the world. I won't even do the math. Okay, you're right. I can't resist. It is over 31,000 for a combination of 2 hop varieties and nearly 2.6 million combinations for 3 hop varieties. So why am I subjecting you to this math madness? Simply this. There are 4 basic ingredients for every beer: grain, hops, yeast, and water. And within each one of those 4 ingredients are many different options. And this doesn't even consider the equipment used. This is one of the reasons I like beer and brewing. The possibilities are endless. It's very unusual that any 2 beers brewed with the same recipe are going to be exactly alike. So back to the earlier question of what's next. Well, starting in July, I'm going to spend an episode every month with a new segment exploring a strain of yeast. Because rhyming is good, I'm going to call it Yeast Feast. I really don't know where it's going to take me because it is not as cut and dried as hops. So, get ready to chew on some new material very soon. In this segment of Homebrew Hijinks, it's time for dry hopping. The recipe from Maui Brewing suggested a dry hop 24 hours prior to bottling or kegging. So after waiting for nearly 2 weeks in the fermenter, it was time to add the finishing touch on this beer. Well, you know, I got smart after the last recipe that had used the dry hop method and left all matter of, well, hop matter in the bottom of the fermenter. So I bought a dry hop basket. So this little device is made of stainless steel and is a cylinder that is 7 inches long by 3-inch diameter. One end screws off for ease of use. Just perfect for my 1-gallon fermenter. I sanitized this basket prior to using it to be sure I didn't introduce any off flavors or bacteria to my nearly completed beer. Using my digital scale, I measured out 19 grams of Motueka hops and 50 grams of Mosaic hops and placed them in the basket. I carefully unscrewed the top of the fermenter and gently placed the basket inside before retightening the lid back down. With the aromas that snuck out as the basket sunk to the bottom, I could tell already that this beer was going to pack a great citrus punch. Next time, I bottle up and taste the finished product. Now, it's time for Barstool Banter. Listen in for the first half of my beer doggle with a couple of names you might recognize. John Dispenza and Harrison Hickok, who are former hosts of the Untapped podcast and inspired me to launch the 5-beer plan. They both dial in from their Wilmington, North Carolina studios to chat about their new podcast, Beer Me That Movie, and some brewing shenanigans. All right, well, welcome to Barstool Banter. I'm sitting down with John Dispenza and Harrison Hickok, who are joining me from Wilmington, North Carolina. Thank you both for taking time out of your busy schedules to join me on the podcast.
Thank you, Brian. This is my pleasure. I think for both John and I. We're both so happy to be here. I'm pumped to drink some beer with you and hang out. This will be great.
Harrison have been together with me so long that we finish each other's sentences, but we never start them.
Sometimes they never start.
I never thought about that like you never get to be on the receiving end of this whole thing. So right. Anyway, I'm really honored to have you both on the podcast. Can you tell me a little bit about what you both have been up to for the last couple of years?
Yes, I totally can. I'll start, John.
Thanks, Harrison.
Oh boy, last couple of years, obviously lots of beer drinking. Yeah, I mean, since John and I stopped posting the podcast, I've been just searching for that next great idea, that next way to get John and I to spend time together without me having to pay him. So I do it under the guise of some collaborative work. But other than that, man, not too much, just working, kind of talking to breweries about all kinds of stuff day to day, working for Next Glass, which is the parent company of Untapped, to a parent company, exciting. And yeah, just trying to keep my ear to the ground and stay relevant and into what's going on in the beer world, among other things. I feel like John's had much more of an adventure, though, the past couple of years. He's done lots of cool things. No pressure now, John.
Not all adventures are fun. In fact, I think most adventures are tumultuous.
Right. Yes.
So yeah, that's a perfect word for it. I met Harrison doing a podcast for Untapped many years ago, and that's also how I met Brian. So we all kind of share that backstory. Since my days at Untapped, I left and did a couple other tech jobs and eventually left to go work in brewing directly. So I had a great adventure at a brewery that was working to re-employ felons. That was a great idea, ultimately failed. I left and I went to go work for another brewery that made some of the best beers, especially IPAs I've ever tasted.
Yeah.
They failed. So then I left there to go work on the other side and distribute. So I was selling national brands like Lagunitas and Sierra Nevada. And while I thought that would be fun, it wasn't that fun for me, doing like door-to-door bar sales. So I gave it an honest shot and ended up back in the tech space working really closely with podcasts and podcast data, which is where I am now.
Along the same lines with the podcast, congrats on the new show. I have to admit, I think when I heard that you two were collaborating again, I think I was at a bar with my friend Darrow, having beer, of course, and I couldn't get on to the Instagram and say something fast enough. So, I've watched a few episodes. I don't have enough disposable time to be able to watch each and every one. Honest
like
opinion.
a movie, each one. It's they're long.
Exactly. But you know what it reminds me of is a little bit of a manic Dan Aykroyd and Steve Martin, wild and crazy guys kind of thing going on.
Love it.
Wow.
Yeah. So can you tell me a little bit about it?
About the podcast. John, you start. Yeah.
Harrison was able to, all three of us on this podcast can tell you that the behind the scenes is a lot of work. As fun as it may be, it's never as easy as just let me have a conversation with a microphone and upload it. After I left the Untapped podcast with Harrison, I was pretty burnt out. And, COVID was a time where everyone wanted a podcast, but I was still pretty burnt out. And Harrison came to me with this great idea that required not a lot of note taking and research and trying to find guests for the show. It was just as simple as, hey, we already understand beer and Untapped. So let's just scroll through the crazy names of beer that people are drinking and then put some of our creative chops to work. So when you stumble on a beer name like Land Before After Time, to not steal a direct movie, we'll try and riff on how that beer name would be a movie. And if the idea is good enough, then we'll turn it into our best attempt at a feature film and draw cast and plot points and everything. So it's loosely tied to beer, and hopefully it's funny.
Yes. That's a great summary of it, John. And a great point you made early on that I don't think Beer Me That Movie would exist if we didn't do Drinking Socially for many reasons. But chief among them is that podcast was a lot of work. And I think we both realized we love podcasts. This is a thing we kind of want to do as long as possible. But man, it'd be nice if we could find a way to not spend 4 hours doing research and then more time editing and then do the podcast and promote it and all this stuff ourselves. If there was only a recipe for a researchless podcast. Now, obviously, the kind of joke around the industry is that a lot of podcasts are just people sitting around talking about nothing. So we didn't want to do that, just making jokes. There are also a lot of great narrative podcasts, though. And so the idea, I don't remember where it showed up in my brain or how or maybe what, but just it's been in there. This idea of okay, beer names are fun. Movie names are fun. What if we took fun beer names and turned them into fun movies on the spot? And that was it. It was simple enough where it felt like, Harrison, this may be your one good idea. Let's get John involved so it actually leaves your brain and the world could see it. And not that I'm using John for his technical abilities,
Who knows how to edit?
but also so that it wasn't just me rambling like a crazy person. John is such a great partner in everything we've ever done, and being the part of my brain that I don't have, the organized part, and being so funny and quick-witted. There was another person I thought of to do it, and he said yes, and we've been recording it since, I guess, what was it, to February or late January or something. We kind of set a date, end of 2023, that started 2024 will begin, and we have, and it's been wild. If you watch the end of the first episode called Banana Whale, you kind of see my face as we finish. If you watch it on YouTube, or you can probably hear it as well, whatever platform you listen to. I guess I don't know what I would call it, relief, excitement, kind of a combination of we did it. And I just kept saying that again and again. We did it because I couldn't believe it. This thing that was just a silly idea now exists in the world, which is a cool thing to see and be a part of. But you never know if it's going to happen or not until it does. It's been a trip and a blast.
What kind of feedback have you gotten so far?
Oh.
Okay, let me rephrase this. So you both are avid podcasters. You inspired me. I know that you have had a lot of reach over the years with the Drinking Socially podcast and other projects that you've done. What has been the response been from your loyal fan base? And maybe what has been the response from the crazy groupies?
Right. I mean, that's a great question. I didn't realize most of the people who had heard of Harrison and I before learned about us from the Untapped podcast, which was really beer related. I mean, what you've done with your show, Brian, is a lot of the things that Harrison and I wanted to do was get into more brewing and beer education. So I compliment you for that. Harry and I we never found time to work it in there. And I guess after being out of day-to-day beer and brewing, at least after a couple of jobs in my adventure, the idea was let's keep it beer adjacent, but try and work in a way where we can have more fun. One of our ideas was let's homebrew a beer and make an episode about that every time and keep it fun and creative. But of course, as you know, that's a lot of work. Yeah. So create a movie that doesn't need to be actually filmed and created seemed like a lot easier lift. And some of the early feedback we got, though, was, hey, you guys don't really talk about beer enough anymore. So that fan base we had spent so long building up, we didn't really think through that we were going to alienate a lot of them by just referencing beer.
Right. That was something we didn't maybe anticipate, but then as soon as it kind of showed up or revealed itself, it was like, oh, of course. Like, Fear Me That Movie is a storytelling podcast, which, I mean, luckily most humans enjoy stories in some form or another. But if your expectation was John and Harrison are the beer guys and they're talking about beer, and you came to the podcast expecting that, you were probably surprised, maybe disappointed. So that definitely showed up early on. I will say also that we've gotten some really cool feedback from people from the Drinking Socially kind of group that listen to Drinking Socially, that are, telling their friends about it and talking about it in the old Drinking Socially Facebook group that is still very active with people sharing their
Yes,
beers
it
and
is.
stuff, right? Which is cool, as Brian Will knows. And that's been neat. Obviously, new people have discovered it. Some breweries have responded, although we'd love if they responded more. But sharing some stuff today on Instagram, and the breweries that we tagged thanked us for our post and stuff, which is cool. So that's happened a little bit. So yeah, but it's still early days. Luckily, John and I have done this before, and we've done seasons of podcasts and stuff. So know that it can take some time finding that audience, and now it's more crowded than ever. I think we're both also fortunate that we're not 22 and hanging our hopes and dreams on this, and this is how we're going to live. Like, we have jobs and things like that, so we can be a little more intentional with it and let it grow over time. Because as long as the internet exists, these things will be on there. I really think we're doing it selfishly for ourselves, to just sit in a room and laugh and stretch our brains out so they don't become useless and start to decay with age, which I feel like happens. I feel like it just happens, and I don't want it to sneak up on me.
Well, I think we'd agree that we're all three creatives in one sense or another. And I think that was the reason why I felt like I wanted to dip my toes into my very first podcast 2.5 years ago, for that very reason, just because I wanted to have that creative outlet. And I don't know, beer is just such a great way to do that, whether it's the brewing side of things, whether it's can art, whether it's the facility itself or distribution. I mean, the industry is such a creative beast, isn't it?
Oh, it's amazing. I know it changed so much, and at the same time, it really hasn't changed that much. I mean, I've been working one way or another in this industry since I got right out of college. It is very creative. It attracts creative people in like every side of it. And that makes it 95% of the time a lot of fun to work in and with and adjacent to. And the interactions you have are with real people who most of the time are doing exactly what they want to be doing with their life. And that's powerful when you get to talk to someone who, as you said, Brian, maybe always wanted to design can art for breweries, which has kind of become like the new record vinyl cover gig. Like, when I talk to graphic designers that I know, they're like, well, that's what you want, is that call from a brewery to be like, design our next can, where that used to be kind of, you wanted to be the guy who designed the next Black Oak Arkansas album cover or whatever.
Is that a real band?
Yeah. I think so. I think those words and I think that order is a real band. But yeah, so lots of creatives, and that's been cool to just talk with people in this industry, whether it was on Drinking Socially or just during our jobs or just in the world, going to local breweries. It's filled with people that seem to be liking what they're doing, it makes all the difference in the world. It's possible, folks, if you're listening to this and banging your head against the steering wheel right now, stuck in traffic, there's another way. Start your own podcast. Oh, don't do that. You can chase your dreams. They're out there.
It also gives you both a chance or an excuse to get together and drink beer. I mean, what a better, ruse than that.
I know that. And now our next ruse is we're going to have production meetings at least twice a week at bars around town. And I'd said it so nonchalantly to my wife, and she was like, okay, just tell me when. And I was like, well, I should have been doing this for the past 10 years. I'm an
business.
Since this is basically a different kind of podcast, will you find yourselves maybe adjusting and changing it along the way to draw more people in from that brewing community, the beer community that you are so endeared by? Or will you just stick to your guns and say, we're just going to stand here at the OK Corral and just going to wait it out?
Oh my gosh, Brian, is the editor of these shows, because we host on YouTube, because I think it's enough of a growing segment of podcast listeners where we felt like we might as well turn the camera on too. How much work extra is that going to be? It's a lot. It's stupid. I wish we would do it sometimes, because what is a fun afternoon drinking beers with Harrison turns into like a week So there's been a lot of opportunity to change. I think we're always trying to find a way to present each episode as something that's going to be appealing. But granted, like it has to be appealing to our niche. We know this
Yeah.
isn't going to be the Joe Rogan podcast where half the people listen to it. It's not built for a wide audience. So it's kind of a mixture of like figuring out what's that squeaky wheel asking for,
Yeah.
and can we add this into our show without really compromising what we wanted to build? To Harrison's point, we both have at least one, usually two full-time jobs or side jobs to pay
Right.
bills. So
Yes.
this is something that we really set out and said, we want to be able to do this for fun and tell our version of a story here and hopefully find people that resonates with. So far, it bounces sometimes between like 25 to sometimes over 150 for a new show. That feels good. I mean, ultimately, we want to find what those people are looking for and find a way to give it to them, but without compromising the idea that we
Right.
built in the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. We've already done adjustments and pivoted, and like I think in life in general, not to get too philosophical, but like if you think you have all the answers on day one, you're wrong. You don't have all the answers. You need to be a sponge and pick up what kind of feedback is coming your way. And then also know that like the version one of anything is never the final version of it. So we've already kind of made some adjustments to the show. John does so much work, like it's crazy, to hopefully make that a little bit easier, to breaking up the show into two different kinds of episodes where one week is just a feature film and the next week is 5 to 20 different beers of us hunting for which is going to be the next feature film, but going through those ideas. And where originally we tried to do that all in one episode and it just became too much and too crazy and too rushed. The feedback is great, whether it's us being critical or listening to feedback and comments and stuff online that are constructive. That's been awesome. But as John said, like we believe in this idea that all we're doing is telling stories. Yes, I don't expect half the world to listen to it, but also I think it's nice where you don't need to know anything about beer or movies to come in here and make that trip to work a little less boring. Just listening to the podcast, like that's really the only requirement of it. But then if you do know a lot about beer or movies, maybe you're getting more out of it than like a casual listener because of the references we'll make, whether on the movie structure side of things or call outs and shout outs or quick anecdotes about some of the beers we come across that we have, history with and stuff. So there's kind of all mixed in there and that makes it fun. But we definitely love the core idea enough where taking beer names, turn them into movies, that won't change. But almost everything else I think is flexible to a point as long as it serves that greater goal that we set out of just, telling funny stories, having fun with each other, drinking some beers.
Excellent. Well, we've been talking a lot so far, and I'm getting a little thirsty.
Oh, yes,
So,
me too.
we're halfway through, maybe. We can pivot, right?
Yes.
You guys don't have anything better to do than to talk to me tonight.
You're not wrong, Brian.
You're not wrong. I got nothing to do.
What would a beer podcast be without beer, right? So, John, what are you drinking tonight?
Great question. I'm drinking a beer that actually came from you, Brian, in one of our visits together. And I've been holding on to this, but it hits me right where I want a beer to hit me these days. It's a New Zealand style Pilsner called Necro Simeon. And it's made by a brewery that plays at a beautiful homage to Dungeons and Dragons, which is a game that I love from Adroit Theory. I love them because of their tie-ins with D&D. And again, this beer was special to me because it came from you and we're talking tonight.
Well, thanks. Harry, what are you drinking?
I decided I was going to wing it and decide on the air. So I was just digging through the beer fridge. I am going to enjoy some Surf Wax IPA from Burial Brewing out in Asheville. I feel like these guys, they're obviously plenty popular, but I feel like they need to be more so. So I'm taking a moment to shout from the rooftops about them. And this is a beer. I think I've talked about this beer on like almost every podcast I've ever been on. We did it on Brew Me That Movie. We did it on Drinking Socially. I'm doing it today on 5 Beer Plan. It's that good. And crack it open and enjoy it again.
What are you drinking, Brian?
So what I'm drinking is something regional, which you would not necessarily get there. It's something called Double Astral. It's an imperial chocolate oatmeal stout from Third Eye Brewing in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay.
And this was a 2023 GABF gold medal winner.
Nice.
And they also were the best brewery of 2023 at GABF as well.
Ooh.
I had Kelly, their brewer, on the podcast last fall. The dude brews up some killer beer. This one is super dark. Yeah. I know people are like, it's summertime. We got to go for the New Zealand Pilsners or the Surf Wax. Hell no.
That's
all the way.
Anytime is working behind the bar, especially in a very warm climate, I would get that argument all the time. We're like, we can't drink anything dark. And I would always try and disband that belief. I mean, one, Guinness is one of the lowest calorie beers in the world. So put that aside.
It's
and
the ultimate
two,
light beer.
We're air conditioned. We're inside the tap room. You can drink whatever you want.
Right. What are you talking about? I know a lot of stouts, not all, but have that like iced coffee flavor to them. And as soon as I feel like I used to tell people that worked at a bar and they would be like, oh yeah, I love iced coffee. I'll have one of those then. So it's all about your perspective, as is most things in life. But
a lot of those big dark beers come packing like 12, 13%.
So that's 10.8.
That's the bigger problem, right? Exactly. You're sweating, you're already dehydrated. Then all of a sudden, look out, 2 of those down and you're dancing in the streets. But that's okay.
I poured this about 15 minutes before we went live, so I thought it'd be nice and warm, and it's like super silky, decadent dark chocolate. I mean, I wish you guys could have this one. I really do. Sorry.
Sounds good.
It's you've planted that seed in my head now where probably the next beer I grab is going to be a dark one. I can see as we record this, I can see behind you, you've got Anchorage is Endless Ending back there, which is not what was that, a barley wine?
It was.
One of the greatest sips and tastes of beer I think I've ever had in my life.
Right.
I think it probably was the most expensive beer I've ever bought. It was worth it, worth every drop. Okay, it's a wrap. No, just kidding. So a year and a half ago, I started brewing, Harrison. I think you brew also, correct?
Oh boy, yeah, guilty. I've fallen in a lot of mash tuns in my day. I haven't. When's the last time I brewed? Yeah, used to be when I worked in breweries. There was day one when you were cleaning out the mash tun. You absolutely got the spray ball turned on you as you were in there and got drenched on all your clothes. But spray ball's like a shower head inside a mash tun. So unfortunately, it's been a hot minute. But yes, the brewing segments on your show, that stuff's perfect. That's great.
Thank you. I put in a pale ale that I'm brewing now. I did that yesterday, and I'm finding that the fermentation is not doing its thing. So this is my first batch of beer using the wrapped bill. And I'm an engineer, so I dig the tech behind it. And the fun part is I can see exactly what's going on right now. The top is the temperature, middle is specific gravity, and the bottom, I think it's attenuation or something. But you can see it's not doing much of anything. Yeah. So I'm in the process of trying to bring it up to temperature a little bit to see if I can squeeze that yeast a little bit and say, come on, guys, you can do it.
Last call.
It's nearly time to wrap things up, but first, one more for the road. This episode, I'm drinking March of Progress from Speciation Artisan Ales in Grand Rapids, Michigan. From the brewer. Pastry sour ale with rhubarb, vanilla, and cinnamon. Ooh, this sounds killer. Without further delay, this is a 7.5% ABV pastry sour. One of my local beer skis, Daryl, picked this up for me on one of his trips to Grand Rapids. So when I poured this out into a nice tulip glass from Archival Brewing, one of my favorites. So this beer pours a deep gold color, and it's hazy, or maybe I should say turbid. You cannot see through it. So on the nose, I'm getting that nice sour aroma that I would expect from such a beer. I think I'm even picking up just a slight bit of vanilla there as well. Very appealing thus far. And maybe just a hint of cinnamon. Very, very, very subtle. So the can art on this is pretty fun. It shows a chimpanzee evolving into a human, which is then evolving into, ultimately it looks like a cyborg. So first sip impression. Wow. So as that beer hit the front of my tongue, there really wasn't a whole lot there. But as soon as it started to reach those receptors where the sour really gets picked up, boy, it just made the back of my cheeks just suck in. So I think on this I'm certainly getting some of that nice rhubarb flavor. I don't know if you've ever had a nice strawberry rhubarb pie, but I think you get what I'm talking about. It's got that nice tartness to it. There's just a slight bit of vanilla on the palate. And just a little, again, a very subtle hint of cinnamon. I'm getting that more on the finish. Whew. Sorry. These sour beers sometimes make your face contort, and that's what's happening right now. So as that beer finishes off, I feel like I'm getting some of that subtle cinnamon. I certainly get a little bit of that on the nose the more that I smell this. I do love a good sour. Speciation does a great job over there in Grand Rapids. This isn't the first beer I've had from them. I've had several before. They often try to pack in as much flavor and character into their beers as they possibly can. They do a fantastic job. So overall, I would give this one a solid 4 tasters out of 5 on the flight board. Cheers! Speciation Artisan Ales. If you've got a beer you'd like me to drink and describe, leave a comment below. If you're a brewer and have one in mind, direct message me on Instagram and let's see what we can do. That's all for this episode of the 5 Beer Plan. With so many podcasts out there, thanks for choosing to listen to mine. Join me next time as I continue the madness with John and Harry, finish the homebrew project, and review yet another beer. Remember to hit the subscribe button to be notified of new episodes. I'd love to hear from you, so please follow me on Instagram, 5beerplan 2022, and leave a comment to let me know what your favorite pastry sour is. Be sure to support your local breweries, choose your beers wisely, and drink them responsibly. Until next time, keep walking your ale trail, and stay thirsty, my friends.